All right, let's get right into it. You know, in my 20 plus years running some seriously complex projects, I've noticed one thing that really truly separates the masters from everyone else. It all boils down to how they think about risk, and it centers on one surprisingly dangerous document. Which brings me to a really interesting question.
I want you to just hold on to that question for a few minutes. We're going to build up to the answer, and I promise you, when you get it, it's going to be one of those aha moments that will stick with you for your entire career. So many teams fall into this absolutely lethal trap. They do all this amazing work up front, right? They identify risks, they plan out responses, they build this beautiful, detailed risk register, and then what happens? They file it away. They stick it in a folder and assume the future is just going to follow their script. But we all know projects just don't work like that. They're alive. Risks change, new ones pop up, and old ones just disappear. The solution, the antidote to this, is the monitor risks process. Think of it as your project's vigilant watchtower, constantly scanning the horizon so you're never, ever caught by surprise. And here's the key thing to remember. Monitoring is not a passive sport. This isn't about just sitting back and watching. The whole point is to create this active, continuous feedback loop that keeps your project on course no matter how much the winds change. We're on the lookout for identified risks. We're checking to make sure our responses are actually working. And we're always scanning that horizon for any new storms that might be brewing. This whole process directly fights against a really dangerous problem I call risk decay. See, a risk that you identified way back in planning could have a totally different probability or impact 3 months down the line. That's why we have to constantly be reassessing. We have to ask ourselves, are the decisions we're making today based on today's reality, or are they based on old assumptions we made months ago? Is that expensive mitigation plan we put in place still worth it? Is it even working? Now, let's be super clear about your role in all this. As the project manager, you are the orchestrator. You're not personally tracking every single little risk. That would be impossible. Instead, you're like the conductor of an orchestra, making sure every section is playing its part. You hold the designated risk owners accountable. You make sure they're giving their assigned risks the attention they need. You're the one connecting the dots between the data and what's actually happening on the ground.
Good risk monitoring isn't just random check-ins. It has a rhythm, a heartbeat. It's a continuous cycle of 4 key actions. First, we're tracking those risk triggers, our early warning signs. Second, we're constantly reassessing the risks we already know about. Third, we're looking for any new risks, especially the tricky, secondary ones that our own responses might have created. And finally, and this is crucial, we're making sure our risk register is always up to date, reflecting the project's current reality. So what exactly are these risk triggers? Well, think of them as your project's tripwires. They're the specific, predefined warning signs that scream, hey, this risk is about to happen. The second one of those triggers gets hit, that's our cue. It's not time to panic. It's time to calmly and confidently execute the contingency plan we already put in place.
Okay, quick sidebar, but this is a really important distinction, especially if you're studying for your PMP. Let's say you have a planned response and it just doesn't work. The risk happens anyway. We call that an ineffective response. But what if a risk hits and it's way worse than you thought, or a brand new risk just pops up out of the blue? That's when you might need a workaround, which is basically an unplanned response you have to create on the fly. Knowing that difference is key. Let's make this totally real. Imagine you're building a new data center. You know there's a risk that a key component could be delayed by 2 weeks. So you set your trigger. You must get a shipping confirmation by day 45. Well, day 46 rolls around, and crickets, no confirmation. Bam, the trigger is hit. Your team jumps on it and finds out the situation is actually way worse. A factory fire means it's now a 2-month delay. Your original plan is toast, but you were monitoring, so you orchestrate. You find a new vendor, you issue a change request, you update the risk register, the project stays on track, not because you got lucky, but because you were vigilant. Okay, which brings us all the way back. Let's revisit that question from the very beginning. After everything we've just talked about, what do you think it is? What's the most dangerous document on your desk?
The answer is the outdated risk register. And why is it so dangerous? Because it gives you a completely false sense of security. It's the document you think is right, the one you're relying on, but it no longer matches the reality of your project. Using it is like trying to navigate a brand new forest using a map of the city that used to be there. It's not just useless, it's actively leading you in the wrong direction. So as you head back to your projects, I want you to burn these 3 pillars of monitoring into your brain. Number 1, risk is never done. It's a cycle, it's iterative, it's continuous. Number 2, effectiveness is your only metric. Don't just check a box that a task was completed. Ask,
Did it actually work? Did it reduce the risk? And number 3, your risk register is living evidence. It has to be a real-time roadmap, not some dusty historical archive.
At the end of the day, a true master of project management never, ever leaves success to chance. They use the monitor risks process to make sure their map is always current. They make sure threats are handled and goals are met by design, not by luck. Always remember, you are the watchtower.